Welcome to this explainer detailing the bizarre, tragic comic history of Mr. Moo. Okay, listen, we're jumping straight into this because the timeline we're looking at today is, well, it's the literal definition of chaos. We're going to unpack the legend of just a super chill grass farmer in overalls, right? But his quiet life turns into this absolutely unbelievable saga involving extreme wealth, heavy metal corruption, and literal silicon.
So this brings us to the real question we're trying to answer. How exactly did a brilliant, tactical farming genius become a disgraced, brain-fried tyrant permanently locked in a 22-hour Forza Horizon drifting loop? To understand this wild transformation, we really need to trace his steps chronologically. From a humble little mud hut all the way up to a royal throne and then straight down into the dark abyss of gaming isolation.
Act 1. The Tactical Grass Farmer. Let's get into it.
Long before the madness and the crazy wealth, Mr. Moo was just a totally random, relaxed bull waking up at dawn to work the soil. But his tactical genius actually showed up early during a major crisis. This guy Somber, who was absolutely ruthless and known entirely for being a horse eater, was terrorizing the valley. The village was completely panicking, ready to lock horns and fight. But Mr. Moo? He used pure, unadulterated psychology. He just walked to the edge of the village and hammered up these massive wooden signs that literally just said, "No horses here." And you know what? It worked perfectly. Sombra strolled up, read the sign, thought, okay, no horses here then, and literally left the Moo Kingdom forever. Absolute masterclass in defense.
Shortly after defeating Sambar with a piece of wood, Mr. Moo goes on a fateful late-night walk to visit his buddy Ganesh Kapoor. Sounds totally normal, right? Well, this single stroll through the dark actually set the chaotic wheels of his entire destiny into motion.
First thing that happens, he runs into this super sketchy guy named Didier doing weird stuff under a street lamp. Mr. Moo has absolutely zero time for nonsense, so he locks eyes with him and just aggressively screams at him in Tamil. Completely terrifies Didier, who instantly bolts. Then, Mr. Moo finally gets to Ganesh's house, and he hears Ganesh having this incredibly deep intellectual conversation through the window. But here's the crazy part. Ganesh was sound asleep. He was literally faking his bedtime routine by setting up a large language model, an LLM, to loudly chat on his behalf so he could get some rest. Mr. Moo thought his friend was busy and just quietly turned around.
So he's walking back in the dark, and he spots these really mysterious glowing seeds in the dirt and scoops them up. Right as he tucks them into his overalls, this totally random otter pops out of the brush. This is Pihu. She just cheerfully says hi, and despite never having met before, they instantly vibe. Like Mr. Moo actually gives her his Valorant username and tag right there on the spot, so they can queue up later. It's wild, but that midnight meeting sparked one of his absolute best, lifelong friendships.
Act 2. Botanical Miracles and Unhinged Friends. Moving on.
Back at his farm, Mr. Moo tucks those glowing seeds into the soil and enters an era of total isolation. What he grows is nothing short of a scientific marvel. He creates the legendary Navarton grass. Now, ordinary grass is pretty bland, but a single blade of this stuff naturally grows 9 distinct, vibrant color gradients. We're talking wildly different flavor profiles in one bite. You get fiery spice, tangy zest, savory saltiness, all the way down to a sweet, nutty crunch. He was obsessed with it. He meticulously hand-watered it with fresh morning dew and would actually sit there gently strumming ancient bovine folk songs to the dirt on his acoustic guitar.
During this really peaceful, aromatic time, he also had to deal with some highly chaotic company. Enter the Russian. He was an unhinged friend whose daily routine was entirely unstable. He'd randomly burst into Mr. Moo's hut, launch into these wild, erratic ramblings, force him to play a quick side game, spin a literal roulette wheel, and then completely unpredictably just sprint weirdly off into the woods. Mr. Moo, ever the chill farmer, just totally accepted this madness as a normal part of his day.
Act 3. Cosmic Pettiness and Clerical Errors.
So this peaceful acoustic guitar playing life, it gets permanently derailed. And not by a plague or something normal. It was derailed by an absurd conflict between two profoundly out-of-touch cosmic figures. Side A is Tingo. He's a perfectly normal pixie who, for no logical reason, owns a massive 10 BHK luxury apartment in Kuala Lumpur. How? Because of Side B, Gunnerith. Gunnerith is an infinitely wealthy, totally illiterate, sentient cup of coffee who casually gifted Tingo that Malaysian penthouse just because he felt like it.
Now, Tingo makes this incredibly petty bet with Gunnerith from his KL penthouse to find the greatest snack in the universe. Tingo catches a whiff of Mr. Moo's Navarton grass and claims victory. Here's the kicker.
Gunnerith doesn't care about the money. The financial stakes mean literally nothing to him. He just wants to buy the grass purely out of sheer arrogance, to find a flaw, just to prove Tingo wrong. It's just profound, elite pettiness.
But because Gunnerith is this high society coffee cup, he refuses to go meet a commoner. He sends his royal butlers to buy a 342 mooble batch. But remember, Gunnerith is totally illiterate, so he accidentally writes the check for 342 billion moobles. And because he's so obscenely wealthy, he doesn't even notice the cash is missing. Just like that, this massive clerical error makes Mr. Moo an economic superpower overnight.
Act 4. The Accidental King and the Golden Fall.
With all this money flooding in, the local provincial council totally collapses from greed. The citizens actually march out to Mr. Moo's field and just place a heavy crown on his head right while he's sitting on his favorite tractor. And honestly, for the first 1 to 2 years, he was an incredible, genuinely good, beloved ruler. He funded awesome public grazing spaces, completely upgraded the kingdom's defense grids. He really stepped up. But unfortunately, absolute power and infinite wealth eventually triggered the tragic Golden Fall.
Corrupted completely by the wealth, normal 9 gradient grass just wasn't enough for him anymore. He forced his alchemists to grow 24-karat golden grass just to flex on the herd. And it gets way worse. He got obsessed with brain upgrades. He actually started eating literal computer parts, crunching on RAM sticks like potato chips. Obviously, this highly toxic mixture of heavy metals and silicon completely fried his bovine nervous system.
Act 5. Shadows of Betrayal. Let's see how it all unravels. With his brain short-circuiting from toxic gold and computer hardware, King Moo became the absolute perfect target for a villain, Dagu Karaja. Dagu steps in and enacts this deep psychological brainwashing. Under this influence, King Moo completely abandons his duties and ghosts his kingdom for days. He weaves these elaborate lies directly to Mrs. Moo's face. And the ultimate betrayal? He completely abandons his own loyal defense army, leaving them entirely leaderless and exposed.
Everyone genuinely thought he was handling distant emergencies. But the tipping point finally hit. A regular citizen was just out for a walk and accidentally spotted the supposedly super busy king just chilling out in hiding. It completely blew his deceitful cover, and that citizen sprinted straight back to tell the village the truth.
When the absolute truth of his betrayal came to light, the Moo Kingdom was furious. And in a moment of sheer poetic justice, the very defense army that King Moo had turned his back on rose up in absolute rage. They stripped him of his authority and permanently exiled him from the kingdom forever.
The final act, the ultimate nerd shift.
Cast out into the wilderness, you'd think the brainwashing was his undoing, but the final tragic transformation was completely self-inflicted. It's known as the nerd shift. Basically, the gold poisoning and the fried silicon from the RAM sticks merged in his system, reacting to his total isolation. Completely independently, he snapped on these thick, taped-up nerd glasses, tore open a cheap bag of processed Navaratan mix, grabbed an Xbox controller, and forgot his kingdom entirely.
He just booted up the console and fell into a tragic, permanent, lifelong 22-hour JDM drifting binge in Forza Horizon 6, sitting completely alone in the dark. The transition from a broken tyrant to a helpless nerd was absolute.
This explainer leaves us with one really provocative thought, right? If a sentient coffee cup's 342 billion mooble clerical error can take a brilliant acoustic guitar-playing tactical farmer and mutate him into a brain-fried virtual drifter, what does that say about the fragility of our own minds? Seriously, if infinite wealth and a little silicone can destroy a legend, is anyone truly safe from their very own nerd shift?